Hi, everybody. Good. Happy Sunday. Happy National Bun Day. Sticky Bun Day. So supposedly today is National Sticky Bun. So if you're watching this, if you're watching this live, hopefully you brought in your sticky bun. And it would be a perfect topic to talk about because we're going to talk about how to lose the COVID weight. So just by a show of hands, well, actually, I can see a show of hands. So just put in the comment. Let me know how many of you out there are actually struggling by having 45. I love the 45 pounds. Was that 45 pounds? Hello, welcome. So 45 pounds. That's a total of COVID weight. Who else? If you're joining here live, we're talking about losing weight for COVID from the COVID pandemic. So how much weight had you gained just coming out of this pandemic? We're still in it, but how much is that? So personally, I gained like about 10 pounds. Really? Well, Kimberly, you're here for a treat, and I hope today you set a commitment because today is National Sticky Bun. So bring your sticky bun because we're gonna from today on we're gonna live our life very intentional, very differently. All right. So I'm really excited that you're joining me here. So personally, I must have gained about 5 to 8 pounds total, and that's a lot for me because I'm very petite, very small. So my height is only 4 feet 4 inches tall. For someone who is short and who pick up a lot of weight, she basically looked like a ball that's ready to roll. And I remember when I first started on my weight loss journey, I must have gained 10 pounds, and it's tiny. I look really chubby, round, and really cute. And people would say, "Oh my gosh, you look so cute." But yeah, deep down inside, I was struggling because that's not what I wanted. And when I realized that it was my time, but like my aha moment, the moment that I realized I need to start looking into my own health was the time I was driving behind my wheel one day, and I noticed I was wearing a white shirt. So where it was in between my wheel and my shirt and my belt, it was creating a mark. And like for the longest time, I couldn't figure out what that mark was. And then finally, I realized it was my tummy touching the wheel, and that's what's creating that mark. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on. So then it kind of prompted me to start looking into, all right, so this is a problem. How do I want to address it? So today we're going to talk about just that. We're going to talk about how to actually lose it in a more healthier way. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So this is my Sunday lounge. So welcome to the lounge. So each week I will be spending about an hour or so to talk about a topic that is really deep connected with us. Now, I probably won't be able to see a lot of your comments, so just bear with me. I am going to do the best. So just a little bit about me, who I am. So I am a pharmacist by day, and I am a mindset coach by night. And I do both jobs full time, which we can talk about the time management later on in a different topic. But so that's who I am. I've been working in the clinical field, in the healthcare field for the last 20 plus years. So I'm really familiar with how do you take care of a patient on the nutrition aspect of it, and how do you address some of the contraindication between the food and their medication, and what do you need to look for, what signs do you need to look for. So I have 20 years of that, and I am also an avid hiker. So I hike. Those of you who follow me, you know that I conquer Machu Picchu with my 2 crutches. So I like to hike. I am very into exercise and workout, and that's really part of my self-care. I know I had posted something about self-care today, and being able to exercise is really part of my self-care. If I don't get to do that, then it kind of throw my days off, and sometimes I feel like out of shape and overwhelmed very easily if I don't get to that aspects of it. And pizza and hamburgers are my motivation. They're my motivator to work out every day or regularly. I typically spend about an hour or so out of my day to work out. So that's a little bit about me. So I want you to start looking at life as the whole. Life is a pie. We're talking about food here, so that's use pie as an analogy. So when you look at the pie, there's different section of pie, and this is a great idea if you're thinking about doing vision board. What I want you to do the vision board is I want you to look at these 7 different area of your life. So these 7 different areas are physical, emotional, mental, environmental, spiritual, social, and then finance. So if you can envision yourself in different area of your life following what is the physical wellness look like, what does the emotional wellness look like for you, what is the mental wellness look like for you, environmental, how do you want your living space to be, spiritual, how do you connect to the higher power, how do you connect to God, to your faith, to what you believe in, and social, what is your relationship with others, how do you make connection with that, what is the social wellness in that aspect, and also finance. Let's not forget about finance. Money is important to us. That's not to we're not going to avoid it because everybody loves money. So finance is also an important area that you want to focus on. So when any one of these aspect is being thrown out of balance. So last year, a lot of it has to do with the pandemic, right? The environment of which we live in, and that causes us to having less connection. So it impacted our social life, which also impacted how we feel, how we limitation onto going to the gym or having the space to work out, things like that. So everything got thrown off, which doesn't happen very often that all area got hit all at once. But sometimes, life just keep throw you lemons. So you're just gonna bring a bigger basket and you're gonna start catching them. So today we're actually gonna focus on just the physical aspects of that. For the next couple of weeks, each week I will cover a different area, different aspects that will bring our life back to balance. So today we're going to focus on physical. What are some of the causes in the physical aspect that can throw you out of balance? There's a couple of things, right? So we may feel frustrated during the pandemic. We feel angry. Maybe, people are not wearing a mask. Maybe people are staying in the crowd when they were told not to. And that creates a lot of stress on us. And when we don't have a lot of sleep, we feel tired. So all these could be a potential cause that leads to the reason why we're picking up those weight, because we're frustrated, we're angry, we're stressed, and we're tired. So all these factors, I call it life is living on a fast lane, right? Frustration, anger, stress, and tired. So think about which aspects of your life you've been living on the fast lane. Now, there's also, once you feel emotional, frustrated, tired, angry, and stressed, chances are you're going to find a way to have the emotional eating because you want to be able to cope through the coping mechanism, right? So every time your brain pick up a signal and say, oh my gosh, this is stressful, you have dopamine, you have the adrenaline release, and all some of the negative hormones that will get released, and it's going to send a signal to your brain and tell your brain, say, well, right now I need to find a way to cope this stress in my body. And what is that coping mechanism that would be meaningful and make me feel supported, make me feel loved? And that would be the behavior that I will go to. Right? So your brain sends a signal because you feel a certain way, and that will lead to an action that you take, whether going to the refrigerator or maybe stock up on all your snacks, or going to order takeout a little more often. So all these are because we have a signal of coping mechanisms. So there's a couple of ways that you can address this losing weight more effectively is by having a different thoughts, right? So we all know that from the cognitive behavior therapy, where you change your thoughts, then that will create a different kind of feeling. And when you do that, it will create ultimately a different type of action. Or you can feel differently And then, you can come up with a new idea, new thoughts, which will ultimately lead to a different action that you can take. So all these are alternatives that you can create in your life that would make yourself to behave very differently, not going to diverge or having a more effective way of losing that weight. All right. So my role here is to provide you with a different perspective. And so in order to do that, let's talk about weight loss is personal. So a lot of people, when we first started our weight loss journey, I know I was guilty, right? Because I look around and I went onto the internet. I was searching. Okay, so how many pounds do I need to lose in order to lose this weight? So I went on diet. I was on. I was talking to friends about these juicing, right? So you clean your system, and there's a different type of diet. There's Atkins diet. There's now there's what do you call that? The high protein diet. Oh my god! And there's all these different type of diet that really doesn't address your personal and it doesn't customize to who you are and what is it that your body needs. So this is a breakdown of how much exactly a caloric intake that you're supposed to be having as a normal human being. All right. So we're talking about just the basal metabolic need that you need to have even when you're just sitting there and just breathing. Okay. Typically, if you're someone who's between the age of, if you're a female, if you're a lady, between the age of 31 to 50, if you don't have a lot of activity going on, you're pretty much at home all the time and you're not really very active, then all you need per day is 1,800 just to sustain and just to be able to live, right? And if you're moderately active, then you will increase that caloric intake to 2,000. And if you're really active, then what you need, even at the basal, as just sitting there and just doing minimum, you need at least 2,200. And men, it's different. Men they have a lot more muscle mass, so they need more caloric intake. So their intake is very different. So for men who is between the age of 31 to 50, typically you would need 2,200 for sedentary, and 2,400 to 2,600 for moderately active, and then 2,800 to 3,000 for someone who is really active. So weight loss is very personal. It's personalized. So here are some definition of what it defines as sedentary, moderately active, and active. So first one is that if you live a lifestyle, only light physical activity that's associated with day-to-day, someone who, this would be someone who's elderly, who doesn't really go out and having a lot of exercise. The only chance that they move around is if they go out to the garden, if they go out to the backyard, very minimal movement from day-to-day life. Someone who's moderately active, this is someone who spent maybe walking about 1.5 to 3 miles per day, or at a 3 to 4 miles per hour of pace. And this happens on a day-to-day life. That would be moderately active. And again, depending on how active you are, you have different requirements. And active means you walk more than 3 miles per day and up to 3 to 4 miles per hour at your speed on a day-to-day basis. So those are the type of definition that you should be considered before you even put yourself on a diet. How much exactly do I need in order to maintain that healthy weight without losing or compromising my own health? So make sure, if you're really considering putting on the diet, be sure to look at all these definitions, categorize where you are now and how much you need in order to lose that weight. So this is a very complicated calculation of your own requirement. So in any medical field, this is the equation that we use to calculate the caloric intake. Now, if you're someone just have no idea of how to do that, there's an easy way out, right? So you just go onto the computer and you look up Mayo's Clinic, and there's actually a caloric calculator for you that you can determine based on your height, your current weight, and you can input and get a exact number of how much calories that you need for your particular situation. All right. So these are resources that's available online. And Mayo Clinic, there's a lot of medical information that you can find up there. Their research and they're good information. All right. So that's one place that you can find out your caloric intake. All right. So how much exactly do I need to lose? So Kimberly earlier had put down 45. How much do you want to lose, Kimberly? So that depends, right? Because do you want to lose all 45? Then here's an idea for you. There are approximately 35 calories in a pound of stored body fat. So in order to lose that weight, you need to probably will need to lose 1 pound per week, 1 to 2 pounds per week. And you will need to create that deficit of 7,000 calorie deficit in order to lose that 3,500 calories that you have picked up or stored in your fat. So it's a lot of work. I don't know about you, but I'm not really good with numbers. But to me, that sounds like a lot, right? So on average, you want to lose about 1 to 2 pounds per week in order to be kind of still be able to function and actually feel happy and good about yourself. All right. Some of the high risk groups. So I'm curious, Kimberly, how much are you aiming to lose? All right. So some of the high risk group, this rule will not be, it needs to be changed a little bit. So people who are diabetic, people who have hypertension, people who have renal failure, liver failure, pancreatic cancer, pregnant or children, or adolescent, these groups, they have different caloric requirement, and they need a lot more attention. And therefore, I would highly recommend, if you fit under any one of these categories, don't do it on your own. Go to a clinic or ask for a social worker to be able to work with a dietitian. And there's a lot of dietitians and diabetic educator who really specialize in modifying your diet for you in a very healthy and successful way, that they address exactly what kind of food that you need to avoid, what kind of food that you need to increase a little bit. So for example, diabetic, you obviously sugar is one of the big offender, right? So but you can't live without sugar. So what sugar can you substitute when you're a diabetic, and what else you need to look for, and how do you measure your after meal glucose and all that stuff to monitor to make sure that you're actually on the right diet. So any one of these high risk group, things become really complicated, and I don't recommend someone who doesn't have a lot of medical knowledge and background to just do it on your own. So be sure to look into and work with an expert who can help you in this area. But we're going to stick to otherwise healthy average adult individual, right? So how to lose them. So again, I mentioned this earlier, you need to have a caloric deficit that can achieve by reducing your overall calorie or weight in about 1 to 2 pounds per week. All right. And you can't just do that alone just by food or just by working out. It has to be a combination of both. And I was talking to, Michael, actually, you already lost 10 to 15 pounds. Wow. That's amazing. Great job, Kimberly. Woohoo. I would love to hear, well, you should, if you feel comfortable, put down your strategy of how you lost that 10 to 15 pounds so that, people can share, people can hear how you did it. I know Michael was sharing earlier that he was on a HIIT program, so the high intensity workout program. He also did a portion size and meal planning, all these in combination. Instead of just doing with the exercise alone or diet alone, It's not a one. It's not a one side thing. So it has to be a very comprehensive package kind of thing. So and this is something that's well known for a lot of people who is in the fitness field, that there's this 80% is in your diet and the other 20% is in the workout, right? So even if you're just being consciously eating, then your body weight will start to decrease and come down. And I believe it's really a more sustainable way of living. So if you keep pushing yourself, working out, or being on the diet from jumping from this one to that one, it really doesn't sustain you very well. And you keep changing your lifestyle. So it feels really stressful to me. It doesn't sound very intuitive. It doesn't sound very relaxing way of living. So be sure whatever that you look into, make sure it's a combination package of working out, cleaning up your diet, and being more conscious about the food that you're choosing. All right, so I wanted to go back to this mechanism of how we cope. So we talked about the cognitive behavioral therapy, where you when you have a thought or idea or something that comes up to your mind, then that typically generate a feeling, and that feeling in combination with the thoughts will dictate how you behave. So this is our coping mechanism. So the 3-step process that I am going to share with you here is, number one, your step number one, if you want to lose that COVID weight for good, and we're talking about for good, is number one, having an awareness is really important. And I want you to start thinking about the triple A, right? So AAA. So step number one is awareness. Understanding your emotional trigger, what triggers you to use this coping mechanism that we have in eating food or getting that satisfaction from food. So understanding what your emotional triggers are. And then you keep a journal. So I'm a journal person. So a lot of my talk, you're going to hear me talking about journal, because journal is a great way to build and that awareness that we need. So keep a journal on what you eat. And then you wanted to be aware of when you are most vulnerable. What do I mean by that? So let's say, for example, there's some situation that's coming up, and that it's going to be difficult to deal with, and it's going to be somewhat challenging to manage, and you have a tendency of using food as a way of escape. So, but by becoming aware when you are vulnerable to these type of situation or challenges, you actually protect yourself by being mindful. So yes, I see the trigger coming up, and now I can be vulnerable. I might need to maybe shift my attention away or do something else to distract myself, so that I don't fall into that rabbit hole again. So be aware when you are vulnerable. That is all part of the awareness. All right, step number 2 is acceptance. Acceptance is where I see a lot of my the people that I talk to, they have a lot of difficulty in this area, is acceptance. Accepting the fact that once in a while we're gonna break this habit, and we might just decided I wanted to have a hamburger or a sticky bun tonight, and which is completely okay. But you have to accept the fact that yes, this is what my body needs, and I'm going to forgive myself for breaking that rule. And perhaps I just need to schedule a cheat day, right? So during my journey, as I was going through losing my own weight, what I did was I created a cheat day. I designated Sunday as my official cheat day. So on Sunday, I will allow myself to either have a hamburger, or I would have something that's really high in carbohydrate, because that's my cheat day. And then acceptance also involves letting go of the idea that you have failed in the past, and that experience really doesn't define who you are now. So without holding on to that feeling of I have failed in the past, so that you can move on. So acceptance is about just accepting yourself for who you are, and realizing that if you fall off the horse, you can get back onto the horse. And then the last step is actions. So the action part is about consciously choosing what you want to eat. So a couple of questions that I want you to keep in mind with is that what will eating this provide me? Like, so for me, eating a hamburger is satisfaction. If I feel happy, there's nothing that can make me happier than having a fresh hamburger. So the having eating the hamburger would bring me happiness. But ask yourself, when before you pick up the unhealthy food, what will eating this provide me? And what kind of feeling or pleasure am I looking for? And how can I replace it? What can I replace it with? So those are the three questions when you're starting to take action, to keep it in the back of your mind every time you pick up something that that it's not going to make you feel good afterwards. Think about it. What do I hope to accomplish by eating this? All right. So specifically, we're going to talk about awareness real quick. I mentioned keeping a food diet. I mentioned keeping a journal about what you eat. So keeping a food diet is an effective way to create that awareness that you need, and also clean up your refrigerator. I know that's okay, Michael. Welcome to the show. So awareness, keeping a food diary, and also clean up your refrigerator. So I remember, when I was on the journey, I went in and I started to throw out a lot of food. Anything that is not fresh, anything that contains a lot of preservative. I don't eat any canned food. So I became really conscious about the stuff that I put into my refrigerator. And my theory is, if it's not in my refrigerator or if it's not in my home, then I won't eat it. So even before I go to the grocery shop, I have a list of grocery item that I want to pick up and buy. And when I go there, I specifically pick up those items and then I go home. I don't linger around, and I don't allow myself to just finding random stuff to bring home, because if they're not home, I won't be eating them. And that was something that I chose to do. And it seemed to be working out pretty well for me. So maybe that would be something that you might want to consider trying, and just trying it out. So buy fresh, avoid anything that has a lot of preservative usually give you a lot of sodium, and that would make you thirsty, and you would ultimately drink more water, and water become waterway, and it just doesn't feel good, right? So why not just start from the beginning, just buy everything fresh? And then here's a rule that I typically keep in the back of my mind, is that steam is better than bake, and bake is better than fry. So if given any choice, I would probably go to the bake sometimes, because bake actually makes me baked food taste better than steam, because I tried steam for a while and just didn't taste good, and I didn't like it. So I'm willing to compromise for the bake, and I avoid anything that's fried. So you can consciously choose which one do you want in your life, and there's your weight loss. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is important because you think about the way that we eat. A lot of us, we eat really fast, so we don't think about what is it that we're eating, and your brain hasn't had a chance to pick up the signal that you are eating, and therefore there's a breakdown from your brain to your stomach, and that they need to communicate with each other that you're eating, so that you know we need to have that signal of I am full. And if you don't allow that time for the body to communicate to each other, then you continue to eat without letting them feel connected, and that is how a lot of these bad habits start to roll in. So practice mindful eating. Chew your food before you swallow, and make sure you chew well. All right. Be aware of your triggers. And we talked about this earlier. Recognize your emotional triggers that would help you to recognize, when am I being vulnerable, and how do I want to choose, and what are some of the alternatives that I can replace? Okay. All right, let's see. All right. So we're wrapping it up. And this week's challenge, what I have for you is to write a food diary of what you are consuming on a typical week. So 7 days a week. Don't do anything else. If you're not into workout, or if you haven't been working out for a long time, you don't do anything else. Just take one little step by keeping a food diary. What you're going to write down is, what are you eating? How much are you eating? How was it prepared? What did you feel before you have this? And what did you feel after you have this? And if you have the same meal again tomorrow, what is the one item on that list you would like to replace? So you keep doing this for a week. I promise you, you are going to come back next week and you're going to share what your finding is. You'll be surprised how much that you had learned about yourself that you have never thought that you had learned before. So keep a food journal, write it down, write down all the food that you eat. You don't have to do anything else besides just writing. You can have your regular food, you can have whatever that you typically eat, write it down. What is it that you're eating? How much are you eating? How was it prepared? What did you feel before and what did you feel after? And what would you like to replace if you had that same meal again? All right. Okay, so we're going to finish it strong. And the way that we're going to finish it strong is you're going to get back here. And what you're going to do is you're going to share your food log on the things that you have learned from this week's challenge with us in the comment below this video, so that we can celebrate you if you have successfully replaced some of the items on your food list, or if you need extra support, we're here for you. And I am going to offer you this wonderful, amazing complimentary discovery call. So just send me a DM and I will jump onto the call and I will help you out here. All right. So remember, keep a food journal, write it down, and ask yourself, if I can have the same meal again tomorrow, which one on the list am I going to replace? That's all. That's all we're doing, right? Baby step. We're not ambitious at all. We're taking one step at a time. All right. So that is it for how to lose the COVID weight by just cleaning out your diet and doing more conscious eating. And we will do this again next week, same time at 6:30, and we'll go on to a different topic on emotion. Yay. All right. Have a good night, everybody. And Kimberly, I hope this was helpful. And if you can share with us your experience of how you lost the 10 to 15 pounds, I'm sure a lot of people will greatly appreciate. All right. Have a good one. Bye.